All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Ray Higdon. Ray, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. I gotta say this is really cool for me because I don't know if you've ever heard of me or not, but I have certainly heard of you. And
Mm.
and how many years have you been doing your thing and helping other entrepreneurs? How long have you been doing this?
It depends on how you look at it. I mean, I left the last job I had was 21 years ago.
Okay.
And so I've been doing some form of teaching and speaking around sales and marketing for 21 years. A few
21
different
years.
industries, but I would say, 21 years.
Okay, okay. Because I know you and I have definitely traveled in some of the same circles because I have certainly heard of you. And I think it's just amazing how we got connected because I found out through another friend of mine about the quoted platform last year, probably about a year
Yeah.
ago. And
Yeah.
and when they told me about it, and they're like, "Man, Kev, I have found some amazing guests because of that platform." I'm just like, "Well, heck, let me check it out." And as the experience that he had over the last year, I have found some amazing guests from that platform, and that is how you and I got connected.
That's right.
And I just think it's awesome that we just got organically connected, even though, it's like I don't reach out to people and say, "Hey, I'd like to," well, unless I know them really well, but I don't typically reach out to strangers who, even if I know of them, I don't reach out and say, "Hey, would you come on the podcast?"
Right.
I just like it to happen organically or through a
Right.
referral. And so
Right.
I love how we got connected here, and I'm definitely looking forward to having this conversation with you today. And I'm just going to start off with a nice simple question to get us rolling, and we can dig deeper from there. But we'll just start with Ray. Well, what do you do and who do you serve? I know you mentioned sales, but we'll just dig in a little deeper.
Yeah. So I help sales reps go from chasing to closing with confidence. And what that usually looks like is I train a lot of sales teams. And so usually there's a group, sometimes I'll work with the sales leader to look at their onboarding to help, companies and teams build and scale their sales teams. Sometimes that's real estate, financial, insurance, network marketing, direct sales. And so I've trained a lot of teams over the years, looking at their scripts, looking at their follow-ups, and just helping them, close more sales.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So, how did you even get into doing this kind of work? What's your backstory?
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty interesting background in sales. I've done a lot of different tough and weird jobs around speaking, whether it's one to one or one to many. When I was 18, I was making 450 calls a day selling long distance, which I'm sure some of your viewers don't even know what that is. But I was on a Davox system, just, 450 calls a day and,
Oh,
doing that telemarketing thing. Once upon a time, I was selling advertising, going business door to door,
okay.
in the Florida heat back then, very hot. And then one to many, at one point I was 22 days a month on the road speaking to groups, Vegas, Chicago, Phoenix, Miami, LA. And so 90-minute pitch in a pretty intense environment to a cold audience to sell a $7,000 real estate education system.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so just a very interesting
A
background
wide,
in sales.
a wide sales background for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you started at a young age. I mean, 18, you said, right? That's kind of really when you started
I
getting into
mean,
it.
I actually started at 12, in that I would buy, I'm aging myself here. I don't know how much they are now, but I found a general store where I could get airheads for 10 cents and I would sell them for a quarter. And I was moving 90 to 100 a day when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
That initiated a candy rule. So, that school no one can sell candy there anymore because of me.
You were the
Um,
catalyst for that.
I was the catalyst. And then in high school, I was in a little bit different kind of crowd, selling something else, and was a little rougher there, but sold a lot of that too. And fortunately, got away from that lifestyle, and just been working ever since.
I can't not tell the quick story now because my brother uh, got kicked out of Christian school for selling marijuana, and
Wow.
not that he was like into that, but
Yeah.
some kids said he was trying to get it, and my brother thought he'd be cool. I'm like, well, I know where I can get you some, so he did, and got busted and got kicked out of Christian school for a while.
Uh,
So, and that's one of those stories that we always joke around, all these years later.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so well, so you've got a deep background in sales. Yeah, fun stuff. Buying candy at cheap, selling it at school. Making some pretty substantial money at 12 years old too. And
Yeah.
but yet, all joking aside, you've got a deep background in sales, and you did start at a young age that you just
Yeah.
kind of found that this was your thing. That you're just
Yeah.
like this is kind of like me doing what I do, being that connector and conduit of
Right.
trust. It's just my thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what inspires you most about the work you get to do and the impact that you get to make, Ray?
Yeah. I've just met so many people over the years that they have a great service or product that really would help people if they knew how to sell it.
Yeah,
And so I just love helping people take something that they love and just improve how much of it they sell.
yeah,
And I have hundreds of hours of actual reviewing conversations with teams and individuals, looking at their scripts of prospecting, follow up, that sort of thing. And and I'm just always able, I think I just feel like God gifted me with this. I'm always able to look at their words and help them come up with more effective words.
hmm,
And sometimes it's a little tweak, sometimes it's a complete rewrite. But I've yet to see any process or set of scripts that I couldn't improve. I remember this might have been 10 years ago, but there was a small insurance company that hired me. And at that point, I had never done anything in insurance.
okay,
Okay. And so, this is a, small group. There's like 8 of them, and they were selling primarily health insurance. And so I knew one of the guys, and he's like, "Hey, I'd like you to come, look at our stuff." I'm like, "Okay." So, I come in and I look, and I look at their scripts. I'm like, "All right, change this, take that out, do this." I just do. And the next week they sold $40,000 more of health insurance than they had ever sold the next week.
wow,
And
wow,
so I just have a knack of what words are effective and what words lessen resistance. And so, when I look at a script or I hear someone, try to pitch something, I'm always like, I don't know, it's like a spidey sense or something where I sense what they're doing that creates resistance in others and how to, it's I say soften it, but it doesn't soften the clothes. They close more, but move it in a way where it's just much less resistance and much more adherence, much more moving, people taking that next step.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting, and I can speak for me personally. For a long time, even though I've been an entrepreneur for 31 years now, but especially when I started with my very first business, which was a cleaning and restoration company, carpet cleaning and water damage restoration, I definitely had challenges around sales and my
Sure.
whole mindset around sales. I've personally grown immensely over the years, and I know level I know because what I don't like is none of us like we've all had that pushy car salesman
Yeah.
experience. And
Right.
so
Resist,
that's what I'll
resistance.
liken
Right.
that's what I'll liken the cringe sales experience to.
Yes.
And there's this guy Tommy now on social media. He runs this thing called Delivered, and people pay him $1,000 to go negotiate their car deal for them. And he's getting like thousands of people. He's got a
That's
whole dang
amazing.
team now,
I love it.
and they do it. And he's like, you know what? If the car dealership, if the car world just was transparent, I wouldn't even
Yeah.
have a job. And so,
That's awesome.
but it's and a lot of people will say that, I know that, like, that whatever, they have this feeling around sales. And
Yeah.
yet you, Ray, you are just not only, well, heck, that, I mean, you kind of laid down the gauntlet when you said, I have not seen a sales script that I couldn't help improve. I'm so now
Yeah.
that so what's the difference between that and somebody who's like, yeah, they want to sell, but they're just not, or it just feels awkward or weird for them. I mean, what do you
Yeah.
suggest?
So, I mean, we could go 8 hours on this question, but
Probably, right?
um, I'll give you two suggestions here. One is most people that aren't very good at sales, they focus on their solution, right? So they focus on their tile or their insurance or their whatever, fill in the blank, right? So they know everything about it. They'll answer all the questions about it, and they constantly, but people who are good at sales are focused on the problem of the prospect. Very big difference. One of my good buddies, Ben Settle, he's an amazing sales copywriter, and he
Yes, he
says,
is.
do you know Ben?
I
And
know
so
Ben.
you may know this quote then, and the quote is, "Talk more about their crabgrass than your weed killer."
Yeah, yeah,
And so it's finding out, so there's been, I mean, I don't know how many, but hundreds, if not thousands of times I've closed a sale when someone said, I just don't think it's for me, or, let me do some research or whatever. And in that moment, you don't focus on the solution. You don't say, well, it's on sale right now. You don't focus anything on the solution. You say, okay, well, man, I guess I'm just curious. It's fine to think it over. But what exactly had you looking at this initially and rolling it back to the problem?
yeah,
And because when you learn to expand the problem, that's a very key skill in that most people, they have a problem and they position it in their mind as it'd be nice to solve. It'd be nice to solve this problem. Well, people are not going to spend thousands of dollars for a it's nice to solve
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
So you have to expand the problem. It has to expand in their mind to where when you ask the question of, hey, is this something optional or something you really need to do? They're like, it's a realization for them, right? It's like, no, I need to do this. Okay, well, if you don't use this, well, how will you solve it? And so you ask questions in a way to help them realize I have a problem I need to solve, and this guy's right in front of me, and I feel like he can help me solve it. And so many examples of that kind of scenario. Um, it's not just getting lucky with lay down sales. It's not being pushy or aggressive. Pushy or aggressive doesn't work.
no,
We have way too many options. I mean, now you can hire someone, to negotiate your car, right? So pushy or aggressive doesn't work. So it's not about pushy or aggressiveness. It's about focusing on them, asking them the questions. And so first suggestion, expand the problem. Don't talk so much about your solution. And then number two is when you feel that anxiety, when you feel that like, oh, I'm about to lose them or something like that, just ask them a question of what was the number one reason they were initially looking at it. Like what made you even look at this? And so you don't have to knock down every reason that they're looking, but if you connect your solution to that number one reason, more of them are going to move forward than not.
yeah, yeah. And it really comes down to, we've got to be confident in our solution, for one.
Yes.
We have
Well,
to
to
be
be ethical, if you
absolutely.
learn this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
you will be able to sell whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so pick something you believe in.
Yes, that is really helpful.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of people out there selling stuff that they don't care. They just know they're making money doing it, and so they'll sell.
Yeah.
And so but the people that listen to this podcast, they do know, want to deliver results for the people that they serve and stuff. And
Yeah.
so that was really helpful there. And you shared the insurance example already, but I want to dig, because you've been doing what you do a long time. So what are some more examples of results that you've helped clients get? You can name names or not name names, whatever feels right for you, but just examples of results you've helped clients get that you're just incredibly proud of them for what they've achieved.
Yeah. I mean, just a shout out to our group. In 2017, I launched a group called Rank Makers, and this is we designed it to be like this very affordable monthly membership for people that are trying to sell stuff. And so I actually do a less than 5 minute video every day, Monday through Friday for them, and we started tracking their sales back in 2018. And so since 2018, and this is, we can't force everyone, to update the tracker or anything, but with about 10%, I think at the best week, 12% reporting, we've helped them bring in over 300,000 new customers. And
Wow.
so like that's so give them a shout out, Rank
Yeah.
Makers. I love those guys. I'm in there with them every day and we have a lot of fun. One that I'm just someone I'm very, very proud of that she just didn't quit. This is one of the best, you know, no quit in them story.
Mhm.
So Amy Murphy out of Canada, she was in network marketing for 17 years and she had never made a profit. Okay.
Wow.
It was
Boy,
so
that's some
bad.
commitment right there, I'll
That
tell
is
you.
commitment, my friend. Yeah, most people go, 17, hours, right? Or 6 months or something. 17 years had never made a profit. Now, that means she spent more than she made every year for 17 years. In fact, she pinky swore with her husband that she would never do this sort of thing ever again. But she finds my training. She gets into rank makers. I do a little bit of coaching with her. She goes on to make $5 million in her company, retires her husband, and is now pursuing her acting career.
Wow. 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 So that's just typical results that you kind of get for people and stuff. And
It's definitely not typical results. That's absolutely not typical results. That's an amazing result. So
that
of
is
course
an
you're
amazing
going to hear
result.
the exceptions. I just heard my. Are you hearing my
No,
dog and
I'm
kid?
not
And
hearing a thing.
oh, thank goodness. It just got crazy. My son just came home. Um, so yeah, and so but man, I love the stories of like Danielle Tobin. She joined our Rank Makers group, and she's another network marketer. She had been in network marketing for 5 years, had never made a sale, made her first sale. Like I love those stories of people that just don't quit. They keep going. I love helping people get those kind of wins.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm dealing with someone, like one of my last clients had 4,000 apartment units, right? Like she's winning at a very big level, and helped her with some mindset, stuff, et cetera. And so sometimes I'm dealing with someone like that who's already created a lot of success. I
Right.
just got hired by a doctor who's expanding his peptide business. Sometimes I'm dealing with someone who has never tasted success. And so they're both different. They're both interesting and fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like in my world, well, even people who follow this podcast, a lot of them are, well, pretty much all of them are entrepreneurs, already running businesses, already, mostly established businesses and stuff.
Sure.
Um, and maybe they're, I mean, I think most of them all believe that they could do better sales wise and stuff,
Sure.
you know. And so, and I know that I have people in my world that I know for a fact that their annual client value of an ideal client for them is anywhere between, we'll say, 30,000. Heck, I know one guy, he's over 300,000 on an annual value for an ideal
Yeah.
client for him, you know. And so for clients like that and stuff, what's kind of like the edge where they're already getting traction and stuff and they're making sales, but like give me an example of somebody that you worked with like that like that how did you go about helping them?
Yeah. So a current client I have, and so this is how I'm helping him. We're in the process. But he was one of the guys behind register.com and building that to 700 million. And he has an app very amazing and it's called Punchify.
Okay.
And Punchify is it uses AI to solve a major problem in the construction space.
Okay.
And so you can, use the app inside of a, new construction, and one, it'll tell you where everything is. Like it'll tell you the status of everything, of what's behind schedule or whatever. But it will also automatically create it'll take a punch list and actually go ahead and issue all the work orders out.
Okay.
Okay. And so this could save, I mean, just a ridiculous amount of time and money with different builders out there. Um, how I'm working with him is helping him to make it more tangible for the builder in that how much exactly is it time savings? Because when you get in these, he's got a guy that's using it on 1,000 homes a year, but we're trying to get more builders to use it, of course. And so there with him, it's two things. It's one, simplifying the message because it still takes too long. I'm actually meeting with him tomorrow. I gave him some homework. And so simplifying the message so it's a quicker explanation. And then number two, having a calculation of, okay, the average house build is going to save X number of hours with this, and the average contractor per hour is blank. And so sometimes it's taking someone who is successful and just making their message and their pitch, I guess, sexier and just more easily translated. Someone I think is who's very good at this, who's actually here in my area in Franklin, Tennessee, Donald Miller. He's just fantastic at helping companies, make their brand message simpler with less cognitive resistance or cognitive load, I think is what he calls it. And so sometimes I'm doing that, helping them simplify their message. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
That's huge. That's
yeah.
huge. Yeah. Well, okay. So now that we've got a little bit of context set here and people have an idea and an understanding of who you are and what you're all about, I want to switch gears just a little bit. I want to start talking about the relationship side of this. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, so that's a very big question. Yeah, and you kind of told me that question last week, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. There's there's three that really jump out to me as far as honorary mention.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and not necessarily in order, but one, Russell Brunson, right?
Okay.
So, um, you know, I I studied his videos of him like selling potato guns and
Yep.
there was something else he was selling, I forget, before I ever met him or anything. So I built a business with a partner called Unlimited Potential Marketing. And so Unlimited Potential Marketing, we launched from just watching Russell Brunson videos. And this was probably 2006 s- six or seven, maybe
Okay.
7 or 8, somewhere between 2006, 2008. And we launched this business. We start doing these events, and basically it's us offering doing Google AdWords for local companies, right? And so we're like, okay, you can buy our home study kit for, I think it was $75, or we'll do it for you for however much. And I remember one funny story from that is I had a guy come up and because we would teach how to do it,
Okay.
but we knew no one wanted to do it, and so we would teach how to do it. And I remember a guy came up, he goes, hey, how much to get you not to work with any of my competitors? Because I'm doing Google AdWords. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? He goes, nothing. I want you to sign an NDA that you will not work with any other air conditioners in our area. And it was kind of a weird question for me. And I was younger back then. And I was like, I mean, I don't know, 3 grand. And he's like, okay, done. And he wrote a check right there, 3 grand, had me sign, a little thing. And so I got 3 grand for doing nothing. Like
Uh-huh.
just don't work with any air conditioning companies. And so, but Russell, I ended up, I met him and we were both speaking at an event in Vegas. And so
Okay.
I know very much about him, right? I've watched his videos and everything. And I'm walking down the hallway and I'm like, hey, Russell, dude, I love your stuff. And he goes, Ray Higdon, I love your stuff. I'm like, what? Like it was just like, it was kind of surreal, man. Cause this was, we're talking probably, I don't know, probably not 10 years later, but maybe 8 or 9 years later. And then I ended up, when I was the number one income earner of a network marketing company, I brought him into our organization, signed him up. He, crushed it like always. And then he had me speak on Funnel Hacking Live. So that's honorable mention, super grateful for him. And I launched Rank Makers because of his book, Expert Secrets. He had invited me out to a mastermind, and I'm like, I should probably read his latest book. And so I read Expert Secrets. I'm like, this is brilliant. And I launched Rank Makers that week. And
Wow.
so we've been
Wow.
9 years strong. We have 9,000 members that
Wow.
pay either $27 a month or have paid like an annual or a lifetime membership.
Okay.
So he'd be
Okay.
number one. Number two, Eric Worre. And so first time. Now, I had heard of Eric. I'd never studied him, but I had heard of Eric, and he came to an event I was speaking at, also in Vegas, and I saw him, and he wasn't speaking at that event, but I saw him, and I just went up to him and I said, because I'd heard so many good things, and I said, hey man, my name is Ray Higdon. I just want to say, hey, thank you for all the value you put into the marketplace. I've heard so many great things about you. And he goes, dude, I love your video. I'm like, well, again, kind of like Russell, right? And so he invites me. He goes, dude, why don't you come as my VIP to my event next week in Vegas? And it was it was tough timing because I was flying back to Florida and then back to Vegas and and I had a lot of family stuff going on, but I ended up going. He ended up having me speak. He had me speak for his events, for the next 4 or 5 years. And
Wow.
then just recently, I went to his book launch in Vegas and he had me speak, 40,000 people online, 200 people and 200 leaders in the room. And so he's another like just solid guy and he helped us with several different launches. He promoted my wife's launch, which did, $800,000 in 10 days. And a lot of that was from him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, Eric, another last honorable mention, I promise, Mark Hoverson. So Hoverson was best mentor I ever had. He passed away several years ago from pancreatic cancer. He's the reason I don't smoke cigars anymore because I would always smoke cigars with him, and I just can't do it anymore. And so he he was just wonderful. I met him in Austin, and I listened to him for 15 minutes on stage, and I'm like, this guy is brilliant. Like I don't know that I've ever experienced that with anyone else, but I listened to him for 15 minutes. I'm like, this guy's different. This guy is brilliant. I gotta hire this guy.
Yeah.
And so I had to seem kind of crazy because after he spoke, I'm like, hey, I want to hire you for 4 hours. I want these four topics, and he's just like, okay, slow down. Um, and but he helped me so much, and got to spend some time with him before he passed, and I mentioned him a lot in my in this book actually, Time, Money, Freedom. This
Okay.
came out with Hay House, I think during COVID, and about him a lot because it was in the process of writing it when he passed.
Okay.
But as far as answering your actual question, okay, so those are three honorable mentions that I mean have contributed millions of dollars to me. I mean, Eric alone, he's probably put me in front of over 100,000 people easily
Wow.
in live events.
Yeah.
Think about that. And but to, but to actually answer your question, there's really only one actual answer, and that's God. That's God. 3.5 years ago, I found God. I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't grow up knowing anything about anything.
Okay.
Um, 2019, at the end of 2019, I'd made over $30 million. Dollars. I'd been on pretty much every major stage, shared the stage with Tony Robbins and, spoke on Grant Cardone's stage and, all kinds of other things. Had accomplished a lot of the things that I'd set out to do, but something was missing, and I really didn't know what it was. And so I went on a search from, when COVID happened, I had, 10 speaking engagements canceled immediately. And so I went on like a 2 year search of like, what is wrong with me? What's missing? I don't know. And so I tried, and I grew up in a very abusive home, so I thought maybe it was healing. And
Okay.
so I tried, I did therapy. I did, 2 years of meditation, 1 to 3 hours a day, every day. Did different hypnosises and things, and all of that stuff helped, but that wasn't the answer. And it was November of 2022 when a couple of guys led me to, finding God and getting a relationship with God, and that has changed literally everything for me. And I now look back and I see, even before I knew him, I see where he was in the rooms. I see where he was helping me and navigating me. And so that's the answer. He's put me, in connection with people in weird ways. He's put me in rooms that I sometimes didn't feel like I belonged in. And he's just taught me so much. And so that is by far my number one relationship, and that's someone I pour into every single day, not because I feel like I have to, as a burden, but because it's just been so fruitful.
Yeah. I'll tell you, we've released about 400 episodes of this podcast, and that is a first that somebody
I
has
was
honored
wondering.
God. And but yet, it is amazing. I attract a very high percentage of faith-based entrepreneurs into my world and stuff. I mean, if I
Yeah.
had to guess, I mean, it's probably 75-80% of the people that come
Oh,
into
wow.
my world,
Yeah.
and it just happens. It just happens. And so so before God, after God, because you were doing well before. And so what has shifted? So what are some of the experiences you've had in the last 3 years or so?
Hmm. So where do I even start? Like when I got to the end of 2019, I just kind of had this thought of, am I just going to keep doing more of this? Because I remember thinking in 2012, I'm like, man, if I had $1 million year, man, that I then I would be worthy. Then I would, I don't know if I use these words, but then I would be something, right? Like I'd be proud of myself. And so I had my first $1 million year in 2013, my first $1 million month 2014, my first $1 million day 2015. And all of them were great, but none of them did what I thought they would do. I thought that I would have some like, oh, yes, now I really believe in myself and now I feel fantastic and whole, and it didn't do that. And so I got to the end of 2019 and I'm like, am I just going to do more of this? And something's missing. And so um, I remember seeing a 60 Minutes interview, and they had a NFL player on there, and he had been a part of three Super Bowl teams. And the interviewer says, hey, three Super Bowls, you got to be feeling fantastic. And he says, most days I wonder, is this all there is? And he's like, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I just feel like there's something missing. He goes, well, what do you think it is? He goes, I wish I knew. And that was Tom Brady. And of course, he goes on to win, I think, three more. But that's how I felt. And it just felt like doing more of this isn't going to get what I'm doing all this for. I'm trying to do it for, significance and feeling better about myself and these different things. And yes, my collateral is that I'm making an impact, right? I would get thank yous all the time. People, just grateful. And so all of that was good. But I just thought, man. And so I remember, that first, I'll tell you a fun story. This was an experience. So I find God November 2022. Okay.
Okay.
I had been hired prior to that by a faith-based organization out of Costa Mesa, California. And
Okay.
so they had hired me, I think around, I don't know, January, February or something that year. And I was speaking there 3 months after I found God.
Okay.
And so he asked me, the leader said, and there's about 700 people at this event. And he said, hey, can you give your testimonial? We have an optional worship service on Sunday. Will you share your story? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And so I speak on Friday morning, I speak Friday afternoon, I speak Saturday morning, I speak Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon, one of his guys comes up and says, hey, I look forward to your sermon. And I'm like, sermon, right? Like I mean, I don't know anything. I found God 3 months earlier, right? So I'm no preacher or anything. I'm a speaker, but And then another person says, "Hey, let me know how you do your altar calls." I'm like, altar calls? Like what? What? Like I've never even seen one because that's not how I, accepted. I had a couple guys came to my house. And so that night I Google how to do altar call. And so Sunday morning, I'm nervous as heck. Like this is a big deal. Like this is a whole new territory. And so I came up with a sermon on church hurt and father wounds.
Okay.
And I do it and 20 people accept the Lord. And it was the most exhilarating feeling I had ever felt. Now I had made I think at that point, three different times I had generated $1 million from stage at an event, or more than $1 million. It felt so much different and so much better than that. It felt amazing, and so I'm like, I want more of this, and so it just kind of began this intense journey. We were in Israel when October 7th happened. When the concert massacre happened, and we went from selfies and gift shops to the bomb shelter three times. And so we've had some of the deepest struggles these last few years, but the deepest meaning. And so I'm just so grateful. He has led me into such interesting things, and I no longer base my identity on how much I'm making or what I got or even what I'm doing. I have a different identity. And it's associated not with what I do, but whose I am, and so it's just for me, it's been an absolute life changing thing, and that is what led us. Prayer is what led us up to leaving Florida, Naples, Florida, for 36 years and coming up to Franklin, Tennessee. We just both of us felt very nudged in prayer that this is where we're supposed to be, and we came up here and we're just loving it. We're just having so much fun.
Wow. Wow. When we spoke last week, I told you about two people I knew who lived in your area, in where Franklin area. And then this morning, I get a call from another friend of mine. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're in Franklin area too. I wasn't even, and I was like, but I'm talking with Ray this afternoon, so I'm gonna tell him about you because you guys definitely want to hook up and
Yeah,
stuff. And and man, thank you for sharing that
yeah,
because I that I mean I look at the work that I do, and I have this God-given gift of just I can create relationship capital with people so quickly. I mean, I can't tell
Mm,
you how many times over the years I've been in conversations with people, and within 10, 15 minutes, they are sharing just intimate, personal stuff
yeah,
about their lives and
powerful.
about their businesses. And I remember the first time it happened, I'm like, wow, this guy who just the stuff that he shared, I'm just like, wow. And he's like, my wife doesn't even know about this. And I can't even believe I'm telling you about this, Kevin.
Wow.
And he's like, but I just felt led to share it with you, you know, and 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 so I have this gift of being able to create trust very quickly. And as a result of that, I've been able to make really valuable introductions for people, all because of the trust thing, you know.
Awesome.
And over the years, you know, I have realized that, like, you know, my whole thing is I just want to be the best steward that I can of the relationships that I've been able
Yeah.
to create in my life, of the revenue that gets created and stuff. Because, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm with you. You know, yeah, it's cool to like have a big win and stuff, but you're right. If it was just about that, it kind of has this empty feeling. But yet when it's about making an impact and stuff, and we know, I mean, man, I love it when I bring people together and they come back and they tell me about the conversation they had and what came from that, and because oftentimes a lot of times it is kind of what I expected, but then there's lots of times when it was like, wow, never saw that coming, you know, but that was
Yeah.
really cool, you know.
That's
And
awesome.
you know, and we get to a point where, you know, once we know that we've got our needs met, and once we know, you know, as a husband and a father, that our family is taken care of, and we have extra and all of that, you
Yeah.
know, like creating more, it's not it's not inspiring, you know. um
Well, so I think, I forget who I got this from, but it's not about um, not having money or something. It's about money not having you.
yes.
And so like, I wrote my latest book is called Faith Driven Wealth, and John Maxwell wrote the foreword. And the first chapter is money was my master, but only when I was broke.
Yeah.
And so like when that bank account was down, like I'm stressed, like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so what does that mean? It means that I put my trust in Bank of America, not
Yeah. Yeah.
in God.
Yeah.
And so um, I think God wants us to prosper, but to just not be driven by that solely. And I like, Zig Ziglar says or said, money won't buy happiness, but everyone wants to find out on their own. I was trying to find out on my own, and I was trying to, figure that out. And so it's not an anti, money or abundance or anything like that. Like, yeah, have all that. Just
Yeah.
don't let it have you.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson that I needed to learn.
Yeah. And that's where tithing and giving comes into as well and stuff, you know. And you know, when we tithe and when we give, you know, that's just kind of, you know, it's because God wants our heart, you know,
Yes.
and the way to our heart is by giving up the money piece of it, and being able to share and give to others and stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's the way to our heart and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
man, we could really go deep. So, for anybody listening to this right now and thinking to themselves, man, Kevin, I really love Ray. I love who he is. I love how he shows up. And man, he clearly knows what he's talking about when it comes to sales. And man,
Mm.
maybe he might be able to help me. He might be able to help us. Maybe I've got a friend that, man, it would be really good for them to talk with Ray, perhaps. Any websites, any resources that we can share with folks?
Yeah, I mean, if you're wanting to, like, for free education, my YouTube channel, we update it every single week.
Okay.
Our 1 year anniversary is actually, it's a totally new channel we launched last year, but our 1 year anniversary is tomorrow, and
Congrats.
we upload quite a few.
Okay.
new video. We upload two longer form videos a week, and we do that every single week, and several shorts. But if you're, free education, go for it. If you're, one easy way to get a hold of me, because I do check my own direct messages. My Instagram is just at Ray Higdon.
Okay.
I upload a lot of, content there too, but you can direct message me and ask me a question, and, happy to
Okay.
point you in the right direction or see if I can help.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there any last thing that you feel led to share, Ray, before we call it a wrap?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely know, God loves collaboration. So I think, the gifts that he's given you are just awesome. And so it seems to me like you're stewarding them well, and, congrats. And, just excited to be on here. I hope that this impacts someone, helps somebody. My life, these last few years, although it hasn't been like everything picture perfect, um, during the time, I now look back and there's so many refinements that I needed that have been so helpful. And so I love what I do. I love, helping, people sell a thing that they believe in. And so God gifted me with that. And so I love helping people with that, and I just love what I do. And I'm just such a big believer and fan in entrepreneurship and business. We're here to solve problems, and that's what great entrepreneurs do every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, Ray. And I'm definitely
Yeah,
excited to get this out there and share it with folks. So thanks so much.
cool. Thanks for having me.
You bet.